What's up, everyone, and welcome to ClearTalk. So, again, keeping on the theme of same shit, just a different day, or in this case, different month. I'm going to talk about the Middle East and specifically Israel and the Gaza situation, along with the West Bank and everything else. I admittedly I haven't really looked into anything dealing with Iran or anything like that, so I'm not going to really cover that today. But this is just going to mainly be the idea in general about how things just don't seem to change, and that there's just not enough will, it seems, at least outside of the area, in the international community, in my opinion, to really do anything about it. While you have, condemnations, or, people, countries or whatever, or just the UN in general, UK, Germany, you've seen, France, or like, different countries that will, say things like, this needs to be condemned, or we don't agree with these actions or whatever. It just there's not enough of a push to actually do something to stop it, in my opinion. And at this point, it's like, what would it take? Like, really, honestly, what would it fucking take for some sort of actual, either offensive or some sort of judicial or something, some kind of act? And honestly, I mean, we've said this before. It really, does solely kind of fall on the United States. I mean, that we are ultimately have the command of Israel, and yet we are not doing anything about it. And regardless of obviously, regardless of who the fuck is in power. Biden wouldn't do anything. Now, Trump, in all his rhetoric and talk about how he will stop wars and he'll do, it'll end on the first day, whether we're talking about Ukraine or they're talking about the Middle East or whatever, he just has the ultimate. He's the art of the deal. He's the deal maker. He will stop these things immediately, and they won't, and yet here we are. 8 months in, and we have no real stop to any of it. Whether we're talking about, like I said, Russia and Ukraine or the Middle East, like, there's no actual end to it. It's just continued talks that, of potential ceasefires that nobody ever actually agrees to, and it's always the aggressors that ultimately don't agree to it. It's the bad faith actors in both situations that won't agree to things. Or they're asking for, things that nobody in their right mind would ever agree to. Russia, Putin's asking for shit that Ukraine will never agree to. It's just not going to happen. Or they just do whatever they can to not agree to a ceasefire. Same thing with Israel. Israel asked for things that Hamas would never agree to. Nobody in their right mind would ever agree to. And it's been, and then, like I said, and the same thing, Israel just continues to completely not engage, or not they find some sort of excuse to not agree to ceasefires, trying to put the blame on Hamas. And don't get me wrong, there is blame for Hamas to be given for certain things, but the ceasefires, they have continuously just been ignored or not agreed upon by Israel. Israel has done everything in the world to try to circumvent any kind of actual agreement. And it's like, and they continue to destroy things, drop bombs. They continue offensives, creating these operations. They continue to starve the public, completely taking over the humanitarian aid, as we know they did before I even took this break. And it isn't getting any better. It has been a field for drawing the people in, and then over and over again, somehow shots start flying everywhere. People get injured or die, and I mean, nothing is ever done about it. It's just like, what are we doing here? What is going on? How much does it take for something to be done? And I'm sitting here still looking at what's happened over the past month that I have been, out, and I'm like, what does it take? What does it take? Would it take them just completely like dropping a fucking nuke or something? Would it take some sort of massive ass, offensive that kills like a just egregious amount of people? I mean, what would it take? The official number is now like 62,000 something. Although we know that is just like ridiculously low. We know that that is just it is in the hundreds of thousands. No doubt that it's in the hundreds of thousands, 300,000-400,000 or more that have died, that are under the rubble, completely obliterated or whatever. Like it is. I mean, it is unknown the actual amount of people that are dead, that no longer exist. And I feel like that to some degree, even though we know it, even though there's just no doubt that is actually the case, when official numbers don't reflect that, even if you have reports come out from people who have been there, like the previous, that was months ago, but the previous, report from doctors and stuff, stating even then that it was, easily 180,000 or more that were dead. But even those reports are not enough, because they can't be considered, I guess, hardcore evidence. So therefore, it's like, it's not enough for countries to actually start making the type of threats that would actually change something. And then, what type of threats the U.S. would even accept. We are the bad guys here. I've said it before, and I continue to say it now. We are the bad guys here. We are allowing a genocide, a slow-moving genocide to happen on a group of people who have been controlled and tortured and stripped of their humanity for fucking decades. By a government and ideological group of people who quite literally hate them. And I know you're going to be like, well, they hate them. They hate them too. They want them. Yeah, the feeling's mutual. How would you feel about a group of people who came in fucking 70 years ago, pushed you off your land, your ancestors, your parents, your grandparents, or whatever, off your land, off their land, forcibly making you live somewhere else? Hundreds of thousands of people displaced decades ago. I mean, how would you fucking feel about it? That's what keeps getting forgotten here. That's what keeps getting overlooked here. People acting like this shit just started on October, what was it, 11th or what the fuck it was, 23rd? I don't know, whatever. October 7th. Well, maybe that's it. I can't even remember now. Like, people act like that's when it all started. Hamas is the whole problem. No. Hamas is a result of the problem. And the problem is Israel and always has been Israel. And again, I'll make it clear that I'm talking about Israel as the ones in power of Israel. The ones who seem to stay in power and control the directions of the government and its military force and might and decisions on, how it engages with the people around them. I'm not talking about, citizens. And while you can argue that the citizens aren't too far behind the government in their bloodthirst as well, to some degree, I don't fully place that on the public because they have been propagandized to the point that they don't even know, or just like people here who have been fooled, who have been lied to, who have been made to think someone else bad, instead of realizing that the ones that constantly try to tell you, the ones that are in control and try to tell you that so-and-so is bad, are the ones that are actually your problem, that are actually the ones that are bad. But this is an ongoing thing. It continues to happen and nobody does anything about it. But when you have a country like the United States that is as powerful as it is, the most powerful country in the entire world, with a government and people in control who are hell bound in just blowing up fucking everything, part of which are hell bound in trying to bring forth the end of times because they're so ideological in thinking that they can somehow maneuver God into sending Jesus back in the end of the world and blah, blah, blah. I just sit here in complete dismay, and I don't even know why, because it's like you can see it. You can see the writing on the wall. You can see how it's incredible. 250 years plus of this country's existence, and we genuinely at the core have not really learned a fucking thing. There are parts of it that continue to be as just bloodthirsty and draconian imperialistic to the point that it's honestly just pathetic and disheartening. And I, every time we find a way to somewhat take steps forward in actually progressing the like zeitgeist, like societal movement of this country, some fucking how somebody gets in power or some people get some kind of stake in decision making and drag our asses right back. And we've turned Israel into just a even worse version of us. And what and while there are, you see glimmers of hope. I mean, you see, here we have protests that are steadily happening throughout the country over, everything going on. But you also have protests, mass breakout protests, day of disruption protests going on in Israel, where people are actually seem to actually start seeing, where before it was more just solely about bringing the hostages back. And that's all they really were concerned with. They really weren't concerned, or seemed concerned for the most part anyways, about what was being done to Palestinians in Gaza. It was just, let's get our people back and then, do whatever the fuck you want. Like, that seemed to be the feeling about it before, months ago. But now it seems like there is a little bit of like something is hitting in the public there. Something is getting through. They're seeing the images. It's like they're no longer being masked. And they're starting to see, oh, wow, like this is not really good. I thought it was like this, but I'm seeing now it's not what they're saying it is or it was. So now you have more of a ask of, yes, let's get the hostages back and let's stop the military offenses. Let's stop. The war needs to end. And you're having massive strikes and protests that are disrupting multiple cities throughout Israel. It's happened twice this month. Apparently one just yesterday. And I could only hope that somehow the pressure will be so big that it will eventually do something. But Netanyahu is bound and determined to and he continues this only to serve himself, to protect himself from his political and legal issues that he already has been, he's been trying to run from and keep himself from since the start of this. And those proceedings keep being put on pause because somehow there always something happens that has to stop the proceedings. Some type of military action starts, and it's like, oh, we got to pause this because we need our leader. We need a leader, somebody, to be in control of this, and that is Netanyahu. This is a disgusting individual. And many, if not all, around him are disgusting as well. Some of which more than him. There needs to be severe condemnation, political scrutiny, economical disparity, something done to Israel that forces the hand for them to stop. And even though they have had economic woes and stuff because of all of this, and their economy hasn't been doing that great or anything, like even though all of that, all the protests, they continue to try to keep it going. None of it seems to be putting that much of a dent in the actions that the leadership is ultimately continuing to make and take. And that's not just even in Gaza. It's also in the West Bank. The continued settlers that are, the rise of people being displaced is increased over the past month. Almost twice as much as what it was the first 6 months of the year. Illegal settlements. Just, I think it was on the 20th, them agreeing to a section west of Jerusalem being in it, settlements being accepted. Pushing hundreds of more people, actually maybe thousands, off their land. I don't see it right now. I had it pulled up, but it's just it doesn't end. It doesn't stop. What does it take to stop it? And I fear that the people in charge right now of this country, because, it continues to be said that the only ones who could really stop it is us. But I'm afraid that the people in power here are not going to do anything about it. Not going to ultimately stop it. Trump keeps saying it's going to end in another week or two or blah, blah, blah. And it continues on. It continues on. It's because he's full of shit. He's been full of shit. And we all need to wake up. We all need. I need more and more people to wake up. Wake up to the corruption and the immoral and bad faith that this country has been enacting in with the help of Israel. And understanding that this is wrong. History will not remember this moment very kindly. And it's sad that in the year 2025 we still have not learned to be better. Let me know what you think. Let's talk about it. This is ClearTalk. Peace. Much love. I'm out.